Hey folks, it's Mark with Fire Mountain Outdoors. Thanks for joining me today. You know, I'm going through a bunch of 300 blackout brass right now, and as you know, I love the 300 blackout round. It's great fun for a reloader. It can also be really problematic and troublesome. Right here, I have the most important thing. I firmly believe this is the most important thing that you, as a reloader of 300 blackout, can have. So stick around and I'll show you what it is. So what we have here, folks, is a 300 blackout chamber gauge. It's actually a case gauge. This one's made by L.E. Wilson. I believe I got this from Brownells. They cost about $25, and it is the best investment you can make if you're loading 300 blackout. Now, most of us as reloaders are going to have a set of calipers, and let's just measure these two cases right here. I've got a case here, and it measures 1.354, and I'm going to take one of these cases here, and it measures 1.356. Those are both well within tolerances. But what's hard to measure is where the shoulder is placed. Now, the 300 blackout, it head spaces on the shoulder, meaning it will go into the chamber and then rest the shoulder up against the shoulder of the chamber, and that's what determines how far it goes in. Now, if it sticks too far out of the chamber, meaning the shoulder is too far forward on the case, then on an AR type rifle, or any type rifle, it will be very hard to push into the chamber because you'd actually be forcing that brass back. An AR is really hard to clear a jammed case. The charging handle, then the way it has to move everything, it's really hard if that was jammed up. Conversely, if the shoulder was too far back, then the case would go in too far into the chamber. And then, like in the case of my AAC handy rifle, it has a very short firing pin protrusion. And so if the case drops into the chamber too far, the firing pin can't protrude enough to actually ignite the primer. It'll make a light dent. So it's really hard, if not impossible, to try and measure where the shoulder is with a set of calipers, and that's where this case gauge comes in. So we can take our cases and we drop it into the deal, and it has a relief cut right here. And so this is the extreme long tolerance, and this is the short tolerance right here. So if you run your finger across there, if the case is flush or slightly above this machined away cut, but it's below this machined cut right here, then your cartridge is fine. And we do the same thing on the other end. So we can feel right here that the case mouth on this is fine, and I'm not protruding beyond that cut. So you can check your cases pretty rapidly by dropping it in there and just feeling with your fingers on both sides. Well, this one here is just slightly long. It's about even. Now, if we wanted to double check that, if we don't trust our fingers enough, we can put a straight edge across there and then hold it firm and then try and rock it, and it is just flush. So I'm going to put that in the good pile. Now I've got some examples of some bad ones. We're going to drop this case in there. And this case, I can feel with my finger, protrudes beyond this upper cut right here. So I can tell right there, and I can see that this case mouth is recessed in there. It is below that relief cut there. So I'm going to put that in the coal pile. Let's do another one. This one here, that is long, same thing. And we can check that with our machinist rule, and I can rock that back and forth. So the case is higher than that top cut. Now there's a great example of a recessed one. Now the case dropped in too far. I can feel with my finger that that case is in significantly farther than this machined relief here. And if I turn it over, I can feel that the case mouth is taller. And if we were going to take some calipers here and zero them and do a depth measurement, I could tell you that that case is 21 thousandths out of tolerance. It is too deep. And that may be all the difference we need between ignition or non-ignition. So we're going to put that in the coal pile. This one is too long. Here's a dramatic example. This one I could pick out by seeing with your eye that one is obviously too tall. Now if we were going to try and put this into an AR, the bolt would likely not even close, and it'd actually probably be easy to extract because the lugs of the bolt wouldn't engage. But if it was a little bit shorter than this, then the lugs might start to engage and jam that brass up against the chamber walls, and then we'd be out of action. So this case gauge, I think, if you're playing with 300 Blackout, reloading it at all, if you're not buying factory off-the-shelf ammo, then you are doing yourself a huge disservice if you don't own one of these and test all of your cartridges. Now just think of how heartbroken you would feel if you spent all that time building a whole bunch of brass that turned out to be way long, and you could resize it. Maybe you could adjust your die and set that shoulder back to how it was if you had to pull all your bullets. Or conversely, if it was too short and you put it in there, there's another long one. If your shoulder was set back too far and you put it in your rifle and all you got was a click. I'm going to show you one more reason why you, as a 300 Blackout owner, shooter, or reloader, really need to have a case gauge. You can use this case gauge to test your ammunition without actually chambering it in your weapon. Here, I'm going to check out some reloads that I've done with some of my favorite subsonic loads, the inexpensive Missouri Bullet Company 245 grain lead bullets. Now, you can just drop that case in, and I can see that this case is between those two hashes right there, and I can see that the case mouth is neither below the low setting or above the high setting right there. And so that is a good cartridge. I know that this one will chamber in my weapon. We can just a quick little tactile feel of each one, and we can look and sort through our loads and make sure that we are all good. Now, why would we do this? I'll tell you why. You might have an all-important match. You might have a big hunting trip coming up. You might have self-defense. You might have something critical on the line, and you need to know that this is going to work. And by using this case gauge, we know that these cartridges and the brass that we've made or bought are within tolerance and are going to function as intended. Now see, that one's a little high. If I was to put my little straight edge across there, I could feel that that one is just a touch high. This is a piece of brass that I made. I got a slight bit of rock there. You know what? This is probably going to work. It's probably going to be okay. But I can cull this and I can set it aside, and that is designated as a range duty round, not as a hunting or a match or a self-defense piece. This is for plinking. That's for practice, and it'll probably work. So the $25 to $30 that's spent on this, if you're playing with 300 Black or any kind of cartridge where you're forming your own brass, is the best investment that you can make. If you're not using a case gauge, you're really shooting in the dark, blindfolded, without night vision. Do yourself a favor, folks. You don't have to buy this Wilson one. I think Sheridan makes a fine one too. But if you're loading 300 Blackout and forming your own brass or buying formed brass from somebody else, you're going to need one of these, and it's the best investment you can make. So there you have it, folks. What I think is the most important tool in a 300 Blackout reloader's arsenal. A good case gauge like this Sheridan or this L.E. Wilson or a Sheridan or another one like it. I hope this was insightful, showed you what the value is of this, and how it can save you a lot of time, money, and heartache, and improve your reliability at the range. And I hope this was informative to you. As always, thanks for watching. Go ahead and take the time to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more programming like this. Thanks for watching.